All right, guys, welcome back to Mental Health on the Mic. I cannot believe we are at our season two finale back here with Lorraine. Lorraine, can you
Hi.
believe it? We're here. We made it.
It went by so fast. Like I know we've only done like 5 episodes, but it feels like it went by in like a week. Like I feel like it was just so quick. But I really enjoyed it. I loved having to do it. I think it's really cool. If you're watching this on YouTube,
Oh my
we
gosh.
have yet again managed to coordinate our outfit
Yeah.
again. I swear this was not planned. It might seem like that because last episode was also like really weird, but we did not plan wearing black. It just happened. So
Like plain
just so you
black.
guys know, this was not talked about prior. This was just like coincidence.
It just happened. Magic. I wanted to start this episode off with an article that I found, kind of kick things off with a nice, very moving story and a holiday story at that. So this is from the Washington Post, and we're going to put the link in the show notes. But actually, last year, there was a neighborhood in Baltimore County, Maryland called Rogers Forge, and one neighbor knew he had another neighbor who was struggling with depression and anxiety attacks. This was during quarantine, so right at the height of the pandemic. And so he decided to, since it was Christmas time, string a string of lights across his house to hers and then left a tin of cookies and texted her saying, "Look outside your door." So that was a nice gesture. And then he also added that the lights are to remind her we are always connected despite the isolation. And so in the coming days, these other neighbors, they lit their own lights across the different houses to the point where basically the whole street was connected and it spilled over to other streets. And so this whole neighborhood, that from one house to another, they were all connected with this message of light and love for the holidays. And they did it again
Right.
this year, to keep that momentum going. And there's a little quote from the first person who originally received the lights, and she said, "It made me look up, literally and figuratively, above all the things that were dragging me down. There was light pushing back the darkness." I mean,
Hmm.
just so
Beautifully
moving.
said. I mean, like, I just love the whole spirit in general. And I feel like when people do things like that, it just lifts so many people. Like, that touched the street and all that, but it touched like basically like I feel like the whole nation. That
Hmm.
story. I feel like everyone just like got a little cheer from that. It's good to have something like light. You know,
Yeah.
because there's so much darkness. Having light really
Well, I mean,
impactful.
yeah, this original woman who received it, I mean, she was obviously struggling a lot, but it just goes to show that when we help each other out, when we think about each other, check in with
Mhm.
each other, it can really lead to amazing things. And I just think that that's
Right.
it's the little stories like that, man, that just kind of remind me that there's still good people in this world, and if we're all, we all need to just do everything we can to be kind to one another because uh, mental health, it's so important, and I think that just it just sheds so much light on such an important topic.
Yeah. No, I really loved it when you sent that to me. I was like, doesn't get better than that. I mean, it was a
Yeah,
beautiful story.
yeah. Now, as we said, it's our season finale. Went by super quickly. Was a bit of a shorter season, but with that, we want to kind of do something special. We want to revisit some of the moments from this season and then kind of
Yes.
weave in some new things that we're thinking about. So, Lorraine, what we're going to
Right.
do is I've got one clip from each episode. There were four that we did before this, and so we are going to listen back, kind of analyze ourselves, which should be cool. We can hear ourselves, and then we're going to talk about it and what we may have reflected on since then, and kind of add some new
Mhm.
thoughts. So this first one, we talked about dogs. So
We did.
without explaining things without further ado, let's just listen back to the clip, and then let's talk a little bit more about dogs. Let's discuss how pets can be helpful to our mental health.
No, like it's a big one for sure. I feel like a lot of people choose that route because it's like it's good to have a companion like that who's really loyal, who is gonna like be by your side literally, and it's therapeutic for a lot of people. I think they train. I've seen like all over TikTok. I'm like a sucker for TikTok, but there's these videos of like these people who have like service dogs for mental health and like certain tendencies that they have, like when they're anxious or anxiety, like in a store, like they have the person sit down and like breathe and calm down. They like give like a hug. Like it's a real thing, and I think it's really great.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wait. So wait, what kind of dog do you have, or dogs do you have?
I have one dog. It's a very little thing. She's like a poodle Shih Tzu Maltese, like 16 pounds, like really small. So yeah, but she's my little like baby child. Like I love her so much, and when I'm sad, like she's someone I gravitate towards because she's always here. She's like a sibling I never had, basically. Like she kind of acts as that little fill-in, and I think it's really great.
Wow. Now, yeah, I think I have a little bit doggy fever. I never thought I would even. That's like,
No, I love that.
yeah. It's
Love
like
that.
I feel like I mean this is kind of weird.
Welcome to
This
the club, like
I
you
was
said
gonna
before.
say it feels kind of weird, but it's almost like I feel like an adult that's like I'm never having kids, and then and then he's like
Or
I wanna.
or like it's like the dad who doesn't want the dog or like doesn't
Yeah.
like think he'll love the dog, and then like 2 days later they're like sleeping together on the couch. Like it's like that. It's like the same thing.
No, yeah, it's I think a dog would be good for me. It would teach me responsibility. It would give me a
Mm.
companion. It would do all sorts of things. So perhaps that'll be something I think about. So the reason I wanted to play that clip was because to me it was about more than dogs. I mean, the story was, if you may have not remembered, but basically it was right after Thanksgiving when I met my cousin's new dog, and as somebody who kind of
Mhm.
had a little bit of a fear of dogs, I feel like it kind of got me over the fear a little bit because for whatever reason this dog Clyde, I just really clicked with him. Like I felt comfortable.
Mhm.
And then we as you heard in that clip, we talked about how having a pet can help you with your mental health. Now,
Right.
the reason I wanted to play this clip was because to me it represented something bigger, which is adapting to change. We've also talked about change, coping with change on the show, Lorraine. I think
Mhm.
that change can be tough on our mental health, as we said, but also like there's so many positives that can come from a change. Like, oh, maybe I want a dog now. Maybe I'll get a dog. Imagine what that could do for me.
Right.
I just think that there's
Yeah.
so much to think about the bigger picture of change, really.
Right. No, I I didn't grow up with a dog. Like I didn't have like really pets until well, we had like a cat, but I didn't have a dog until I was 9, and I have always wanted a dog. And I really think that my life really changed when I got that dog. Like it's not just an animal, like it was like a family member, and I really it it was like this new kind of thing I never had before, like a new connection I never had with anybody before, especially because like I'm an only child. So like having that dog was like the highlight of that whole year, and she's always there for me. And it was a really great change, and I think dogs and any type of animal really impact a family in so many ways.
Yeah, I thought about the change thing, and I mean, last week we talked about my whole college situation, where
Right.
I was expecting to go to California for school, going back to school in general, and now I'm not. So that means not moving across the country, not focusing on education, and that was, you know, we had a very real moment last week when we talked about that, and I was feeling down on myself. You lifted me back up. I was doubting. I was insecure. I felt like a failure in some ways and very vulnerable. But honestly,
Hmm.
over the past week since we did that episode, like I've really been reflecting, and I feel like everything is just happening for a reason, as you always say, Lorraine. But also like maybe it was a blessing in disguise because I feel like now I'm starting to see, my life is starting to kind of come back together, and I'm like, oh, you know, things are great the way that they are. I don't need to be at that school where I thought I wanted to be.
Right. And that's like again the whole topic of change. Like things are gonna change in life. They're not gonna go according to like your first initial plan. And we have to understand that that's okay. Like you're learning to understand like that's okay. Like you're realizing like, oh, like look what I'm having right now. Like this is good. Like I'm okay. Like just because that didn't work out doesn't mean like my whole life trajectory and everything about it's like over. Like there's so much more to that in your life that you're realizing is like, okay, this is good. Like I like where I am. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, like, one thing doesn't work out, but you feel good. Like you realize that, hey, like look where I am and
Right.
look where you are, and that's good. So I think I'm proud of you, and I think everyone else who's listening is proud of you. And it just goes to show like it's gonna be okay. If one thing doesn't work out, there's always a light. Like you're gonna find it. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah. Thank you. So, okay, this next clip was from our second episode where we decided that we really wanted to talk about social media. because after we recorded part one, and again, as you guys know,
Right.
our journey, Lorraine, you were my guest, and then you became my part two guest, and then you were my official co-host, and now here we are. But
There we
after
go.
we did that part one and it really went well, you were like, we have to talk about social media. So this is us talking about a couple different things kind of on the topic of the internet. I wish we still lived in a time, and I feel like as long as we've lived, it's, like most of our lives, I feel like has just been dominated by the internet. But I wish that we lived in a time where like conversations were happening, even if it is like through our phones and it's a phone call or a FaceTime, like people just resort to like publicly type something, which is the easiest thing in the world to do. It does not, take that much. It doesn't really take guts to do that. What I think would take guts and what would be very respectable, you're talking about like the bullies that have their own issues. It's like, what if people who had issues with each other and like take it out on each other like could actually talk and like work their stuff out? Like there's such a lack of connection. It's like we are technically connected with this social media, but we're not taking the time to interact as real human beings because we're just like using these screen names to choose what kind of persona we want to be. And oftentimes it's not really a good persona because we're just using our platform, however big or small, to attack others. And really, it's quite cowardly to not have that conversation with someone and say, let's talk this out. Like, I don't like you because of this, or this. Not, let me go post about it, humiliate you, ruin your life. Like, come on.
I feel like we're so conditioned to just like the thought of having like a decent, normal human conversation about something that affects us or bothers us goes to like an extreme or just it's like totally overseen. And it's now what you said, which is going after someone, commenting like la la la. And it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Like what with every so many things could be avoided if we just did the mature, thoughtful thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do have that and they do that, which is great. Props to you. But a lot of people are not like wired that way right now for some reason. And that's a whole other thing about like why.
Yeah.
I don't think we can like pinpoint that, but it's just really confusing because I feel like back in the day it was better.
I don't know if the pandemic has made it worse because we were all at home for so long and we weren't having that face to face interaction. But there is a new level of selfishness and like a lack of responsibility because like I feel like we all have a responsibility to use social media in a way that is like productive to society. Like we have the right to post what we want. We say what we feel, but it's just like being a human being in like real life in person. It's like you as a citizen of wherever you are, like you're supposed to think before you speak. You're supposed to be nice to others and not take out all your anger and frustration. But
Mhm.
there's no filter. There's no thought process, no thinking, just posting.
No, I think that's exactly kind of what it is. Like when you're in real life, there's that thing in your brain that says like, okay, let's think about this. But when you're on your phone, it's very like instantaneous. It's just like thumbs go, send.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh, well, there it is. But there's just no like prior thought to what you're gonna do, which is kind of like my motto of like how I do things is like, if I'm not gonna say this in real life, don't say it on social media.
So, what is your instant reaction to reflecting on our little discussion there?
I like it. I think we did a really good job of explaining and really getting the words out of the whole phenomenon of like social media and communication towards one another and how it's changed and the lack of thought that goes into what we say nowadays. Um, so I really like our back and forth conversation. I think it needs to be blasted on like every radio show, every megaphone. Like it was really on point. So I'm really proud of how we came across with that topic.
Me too. I think a couple things I took away. I'd say that, there's the social media, the platforms themselves, but, I think that, as I may have mentioned in the clip, the importance of conversation, communication, just in general. I think that we're all sort of inside of this little shell of ourselves that we can't figure out how to express what we feel to other people. And that's something I
Right.
think that we need to figure out and address as a society on the screens and in person with other human beings. I mean, I think, not to mention, we all are real people even behind these screen names. It's like
Right.
I think what these phones have done to us, again, we also touched on how there have been many positives that have come out of
Right.
technology and social media, but we we just have lost control over how to like behave in a way that's productive, that's kind, that's, it's like I just feel like, I mean, again, we couldn't do a show about mental health without touching on social media because like we live in a digital world. But I think
Right.
that the digital world, it like it's either that it has these rules that I really don't agree with, or there are no rules, which is leading humanity to kind of go crazy.
Right. And like kind of what you touched on, like when you're on your phone, like you many times you just like forget like the person you're sending this to is like an actual human being. I feel like it's always like phone to phone, but it really is person to person. Like it's just that little device that's like the mid gateway to like the other person. So like in real life, it's just like person to person. But when you're on your phone or wherever, however you're communicating digitally, like those devices are like in between. Like they're still there, and a person's on the other end. And I feel like a lot of people really forget like there's a human being behind that. Like there's a heart, there's a soul, and what you say is going to directly affect them, no matter if you're on a screen or not. Like words are words, no matter if you say them or if you type them. And it really sucks. And I feel like social media has such like a negative tone to it usually now. And I feel like social media wasn't supposed to be negative, but I think it's the way that we're using it is making it negative. If we used it in a positive manner, like I really think it would be a better space. So I don't really, social media can be the problem. I think there's ways they can filter things out a little bit better, but I really think the major problem is the people who are actually using it.
Mm.
So
That's
yeah.
interesting that we're, because I was sort of talking about like blaming the apps themselves and the technology. You're saying that's not an
Well,
excuse, which is interesting.
yes and no. It's kind of like it's really the two.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like if those people weren't apt to say things in the first place, I feel that it it would be better.
Right.
But I do think apps and social media companies to take to account like what's really going on and like wake up and be like we need to reconstruct, we need to do something and like change our platform so that some of these things can be filtered out or you know I think there needs to be a whole like reconstruction of like social media in general. And I think it takes the person, and I also think like you said it takes these social media programs and platforms.
Yeah. I mean, I think, what we all could really do, is start to ask ourselves, like, we have these profiles, which is, maybe we have our name and where we go to school and things that we like, and we post, whatever it is, the content that we like. But
Mhm.
maybe our profile should be deeper. Like we should, not that it's in our bio literally, but we should maybe be asking ourselves, like,
Right.
what's my profile? Who am I as a person? And how can I contribute that in a positive manner to this app that I'm using? Because
Mhm.
really, I mean, again, it affects our mental health. It affects the mental health of people that might be upset by something we say. I mean, people that get into arguments, whether it's bullying, as we've talked about on the show, or it's politics, or so many different topics that like social media has just become this like war zone. I think if we take the time to ask ourselves, okay, what is my profile? What is who do I want to be on a deeper level? And again, it's not something that you say like in your bio, literally like, oh, I am a nice person, but just check in with yourself, you know. And I think it should really become something where we all do a better job of like asking ourselves, who am I? Who are we when it
Right.
comes to these platforms?
Yeah, I think we get so caught up in like, what we want to be or how we want to appear. And, people make tweaks, they change really into something that they're really not. And like you said, that contributes to like the major problem. So I feel like we really need to be more aware and be like, is this how I want to look on social media? Is this like who I am? And if there's any skepticism that like that's not you, then there's some like major reflection that you said like that needs to be done.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's all I took a class once where they were talking about like what our digital footprint is and like we all leave a mark
Mm-hmm.
and of course, there's the whole thing about like whatever you post stays there forever regardless of deleting things and
Right.
we don't have to educate people on that because everybody knows that. But
The
like
digital footprint.
yeah, well no, it's the term that the professor used. It's like
No, yes, it's
yeah,
it's it's real. Yeah.
very real. I actually think that this is a good segue into something else that we talked about. We kind of talked more about bullying and gossiping and
Yeah.
particularly like in high school as a whole. And so this clip I think was from episode 3, and I really think that the word that sums up what you and I talked about was honesty. So here we go. My thing is, right, is that we're like you said, Lorraine, we're kind of giving out advice or whatever. My thing is
Mm-hmm.
I don't want people to listen and think, oh, this is so easier said than done in the sense that
Right.
and we're both like of the age where we've made mistakes and we've maybe
Mm-hmm.
been guilty of some of the things that we tell people like you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. I'll never, I'll always, I'll stand in my belief that I'm just like a huge advocate for like let's destroy bullying, let's destroy unkindness, and those are all things that I believe and I preach. But like, I mean, I don't know. I try to be a very honest person as well. Like, there was one time in high school where I said something not nice about somebody and I felt so bad and I like own up to it and I didn't do it again because like I feel like I know how like I realized like wow, like I can't believe I said something mean about somebody and it didn't make me feel good, it didn't make them feel good obviously. So like I think that I speak from the experience of like yeah, I've been bullied, people have talked shit about me, but I mean I would never say I've been a bully, but I mean, look, we've all probably said not nice things about people occasionally. Like it just happens. So
Mm-hmm.
not only are we giving advice, but Lorraine, I mean, you probably agree. Like we're here to say like we're human beings, like we make mistakes too. So like, don't just think we're
Yeah.
perfect.
No, like that's the whole point of this whole thing. Like we aren't trying to get where like me and Bennett are like angels from heaven or whatever, and we have done nothing wrong. You know what I mean? Like we are human beings. You all who are watching or listening are human beings as well. We're not saying that like, you do this one thing one time or twice or whatever, and you're this like bad person and shame on you. We all make mistakes. We all say things that we shouldn't have said, but we did. But the point of this is owning up to it, like
Hmm.
Bennett said. He owned up to it. I've owned up to things. And you grow from that. Growing is a sign of strength and is a sign of a good person. It's when you're not growing and you're continually doing the same thing over and over again, that's where it becomes a problem. So I feel like it's allowed to make mistakes. That's part of who we are. But if you're not growing or understanding what you're doing is wrong and how it's affecting other people, that's where, mental health needs to be worked on because clearly, something's a little off.
So, wow, I really am proud of us for that level of, as I said, honesty. Right? I mean,
I
that was really something.
know. No, I think the honesty is great, and I really think it's more of like a strength and superpower to acknowledge that you did something wrong. Like the big thing that, no matter what age you are, whether if you like stole your sister's toy when you were like 5, or like, you're an adult and you made a mistake, like owning up to those things is so hard no matter what age you're at. Um, so I think it's really commendable that like we both, we were like accepting that like, yeah, we've done things, but it's more to that. It's more about the growth and how you improve yourself after you've done those things.
Yeah, and if you listen to the episode, I believe it was the episode, season 2, episode 3. I don't know what it was called off the top of my head, but I gave the little spiel about what that situation was and gave the details, so you can go listen to that. But in real life, that situation, I did get the chance to apologize to the girl that I wasn't nice to, and that felt really good to be able to communicate with her on that. I mean, communication in general, I just feel like social media, face to face, if we told each other how we really felt, and we explained why. I mean, I told that girl like why I wasn't nice to you that day. Like why was I so insecure that I felt the need to say something unkind to you, and it ultimately made me feel bad. So I think that, obviously any form of bullying comes from a place of insecurity, comes from some sort of pain, and so you know it's also hard because even if we know it's not personal, when something hurts your feelings, it hurts your feelings and then affects your mental health.
Yeah, and that it's kind of like a domino effect. It's really like when you feel hurt, you really feel it, and majority of the time it results to, the insecurity that you feel, and then you hurt another person. It's just like this domino effect that sometimes happens, and it's really unfortunate because it's like it almost feels like this never ending like trail almost. You just like it's just like one hurt person after another, and that person hurts the next person. And so I really think, like we said, like mental health, like it's gone so far, but I feel like more improvements can be made in that department so that it can better prevent that spiral from happening and really give people an outlet um, to use that pain, unfortunately, if they get it, in a way where it's not going to affect another person, and that like chain will like break earlier than it does.
Right. And like talking about it, whether
Right.
it's with the other person, whether it's with somebody else that's a third party, whether it's a therapist, I don't know. I just think that if you talk about something that is bothering you, not only does it improve your mental health, but as we said before, it will then improve the other person's mental health because you have not
Right.
hurt their feelings and said something that really you
Right.
didn't mean.
I think talking is like the best thing you can do. I
Yeah.
think it's so therapeutic and so rewarding at the end when you really just dive into yourself and what you're feeling and put it into words. It's a hard thing to do, but when you do it and when you're talking with that person, like you will feel so much better
So
just by
much
like
better.
30 minutes and not even of talking about it. Like it is a huge boost. So I really think talking needs to be like talked about more, literally,
Yeah.
because like I feel like people overthink that. Like they're like, what's the point of talking about? Like I'm just gonna feel more hurt at the end. Like no, bringing it up is like the hurdle that you need to get over to feel better.
Oh yeah. Actually, so I had therapy yesterday, and we were in the second week of something I think I brought up last week, which was I believe it's called EDMR therapy, which is where you go back and look at different situations, and then I I'm not an expert. I don't even know why I'm trying to explain it, but like if you're watching this, you'll see that my therapist, like, he would like wave his finger back and forth, and I would look at the finger and then think of the memory, and then I would take a deep breath, and then he would ask me how I'm feeling, and he would say like what's a positive emotion you have associated with that memory, what's a negative emotion, and we've been doing like childhood memories. And for me, my childhood memories, which were mostly good, there were a couple of memories that were just classic examples of when you're a little kid, it's the end of the world, but looking back, it's really nothing. So, um, one thing that I thought was interesting was we went to the memory of when I found out I was going to a new school. I was at a school in
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten that was already going to be ending uh, after second grade. It was like through my synagogue, and after second grade, you'd have to go to like a real school. But I loved being there. I loved the kids that I knew there.
Right.
And so, even though I could have stayed till second grade, mom and dad decided, okay, for first grade, you're going to go to this new school. So they told me about it, and I got under the kitchen table for some reason and started crying and throwing a tantrum. And in the moment, I was like, it is the end of the world. And I was so upset, and I was mad at them because I thought, why was I not included in this decision? Now I was 6 or 5 years old, and at that age, like, your parents are going to make those big decisions for you. Ultimately went to the school, stayed there for 12 years, and it was one of my favorite places to be of all time. So like, go them. But what we realized was, you know, at the time, even little 5-year-old me was taking out anger, was taking out um, like the blaming emotions, right? Like saying they did something wrong, but we realized it was my fear of being in an environment that I wasn't used to, my fear, my feeling that shows vulnerability that has nothing to do with them and all to do with me. So it's like you realize that in the bigger scheme of things, not only is it pain, it's an insecurity, but we live as human beings with so much fear
Right.
that we somehow, because we're afraid of being afraid and we don't want to be vulnerable and we don't want to be weak, we lash out on other people. We try to act tough and make it all about, blaming somebody for what they've done to us. But really,
Yeah.
the more that we talk about these things, the more we realize, oh, it's within me. It's my, fear or whatever I'm feeling that's natural as a human being, and there's nothing wrong with being afraid, you know?
Right. No, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a natural response. Change is different. Change is not what you're used to. So you're naturally going to feel uncomfortable and vulnerable and scared about that. And I really wish like fear didn't have that like negative notion, because it's just a human response that everyone feels and everyone is entitled to feel. And it just should be like a normalized thing. Like it shouldn't be, you know, it's anything like, oh, you're scared. Like that whole thing, people like call
Yeah,
you and you're like, oh, you're scared, like chicken, whatever. And you're like, it's just like, I never got that whole thing. It's just like,
yeah.
why? And now that you brought like the whole like school thing, I actually have a memory. It was third grade, and when you're like in elementary school, how like my school system worked was like you have one teacher for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was one teacher, they teach all the subjects, like you just had one teacher. And so I remember the teacher assignments came out, and all my friends had one teacher, and I had like a different teacher, and I was so upset. I was like, this is not fair. Like, mom, you have to like call the school. Like, you have to change it. Like, I am not gonna like school. Like, all my friends are in this class. Like, I'm gonna be away from them. Like, this is not gonna be good. Like, I threw a whole tantrum for like a week about it. And my mom was like, I think you're gonna like this teacher. It's gonna be fine, Lorraine. Like, calm down. Like, she's like literally like calming down this like third grade child. And I had like a week with this teacher, and I fell in love with this teacher. She was probably one of my favorite elementary school teachers I ever had. Didn't matter. My friends were in our class. I met new people. The teacher was lovely, amazing. She helped me in so many ways. And it just goes to show like change is so hard. Being away from people who you're used to being with is hard, especially at that young age when that's all you know and you can't think past that. Like it is hard. But I loved that teacher. I loved the whole class. And if I could go back, I would not want my mom to like call school and be like, get a different teacher. Like I love the experience, and it just goes to show like change can be good, and if you give it a chance, like just give it a chance and
Yeah.
give it a chance. And most of the time I found out like it's good and it's gonna be fine and it's not the end of the world. So yeah, that's I when you brought up school and I was like, wait, I think I have something to add. So I was like,
Yeah. Well, it's like you
yeah,
always say, Lorraine, everything happens for a reason.
yes, everything happens for a reason. I always try to think about that because it's proved me right time and time again.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I think that has instilled some good memories we can think about because, it both of us, we had something that's like started out kind of not as fun to think about, but then the fact that we were like happy with the situation. I mean, you
Right.
loved your teacher, I loved my school, and these things do stick with us. Me that happened, all these years ago when we were so little. Our childhood things always stick with us.
Yeah.
All right. So the last clip is from last week, and we were talking about self-love. And this was after I had been just like really down on myself about
Oh,
the school
this is
thing.
my favorite episode actually. Like
Yeah,
not because I felt so bad, like I was, but I think what we've talked about and the conversations that and things that I was able to say to you and to like the audience, I think that was like my most proud moment was that episode.
yeah.
And I've heard so many like great things about it from people, so I really appreciate you guys like enjoying it because I really love that episode.
I think it's a good one to end with, a good last clip to play. So let's check it out. I've been through stuff, and I just it's not as simple as just like my whole life I've just been like this guy who's always happy and positive and loves life and is so comfortable in his own skin. Like there was so much I had to go through from being bullied in middle school to being mistreated in high school and not having the best situation with college and all that. Like it's just been finding out who I am has been such a long journey that when I feel like this is the year that I've become the most happy with myself that I've ever been, I am happy about it and it's something to celebrate, but it's also something where I look back and I think, wow, like look at all you had to do to get to this point, you know?
No, it's kind of like a whirlwind moment of just like you get like you're in a storm, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden like you're just standing there after the storm, and you're like, "It- that was it. Like I did it, and like I'm here, and kind of like all that turbulence that you had to get through to get there. It's a feeling that's really hard to describe, but it feels completing. It feels, you kind of glow in that moment. You're just like, like I was in this like dark shadow place, and now here I am like glowing because I know myself. I love myself. I appreciate myself, and and it's something I wish for everyone. I feel like once you feel that, it's life changing, literally. And there's times where you're gonna still feel some of the same emotions, and it's not always gonna be like butterflies and rainbows now, but I think once you start making those steps, you're gonna see a tremendous difference with your mental health and just like your overall well being.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, because we all have got things going on, but it's like sometimes it's so hard to see because mental health is like physical health. You can see if somebody's sick or you can see if somebody
Right,
is injured, but you can't always see what somebody's feeling or thinking on the inside.
right,
And that's something we
right,
got to think about. Like, my God, like whether it's the age we're at now or like when we were younger, like we all are so quick to judge each other and put pressure on each other, and the world puts so
right,
much pressure on us, but it's like people don't understand what we're going through. And unfortunately, given like the selfish nature of a human being, sometimes until we know what something is like, we can't always understand,
right.
what it's like to struggle. All right, thoughts?
Uh, I love the whole, I can't even like I love that episode. It's gonna like beats me to my grave. Like I just loved everything we talked about, and not that clip specifically. I think we really bounced each other out very well, and I think we
Hmm.
really touched on the topic of like that moment where you find yourself, and that self-love moment is just you can't even describe it with words. Like I was trying my hardest, but like you really can't. It's like this like feeling, and when you're there, it's just like it's so eye-opening, and I really like what we did with it, and I really like my metaphors because that
Yeah,
was
a highlight, a season
that was
highlight for
on
sure.
point.
Yes. Um, yeah, while we were playing that clip, I was like snapping and like reacting
No,
because
I like smiled. I was like, oh my god.
yeah, it's fun to look back on that.
I
Yeah, I mean,
know.
I feel like, and that episode, which I think we both agree was one of our proudest pieces of
Right.
work, I would say, of the four we
Because you
did.
were so vulnerable, and my comments and my points to you were very on point. And I
Hmm.
think that mixed together made the best episode of Mental Health on the Mic.
Yeah.
Because that was a whole different side of you that we didn't see in the first three episodes.
Hmm.
And my intellectual comments were not that on point until that episode. So I really think together it was a really good mix. I think it was perceived really, really well.
I think I think it was a testament to how, like, why you're my co-host because you carried that episode, in my
I
opinion.
tried. Oh
Um,
no, no, but okay.
well, no,
I
I
think we
mean,
both carried it in different ways.
well, we lifted each other. I mean, well, you really lifted
Right.
me out of something that was heavier and I guess vulnerable, as you said. But like, it was just, I, as the creator of this show, I run the board. I come up with the concepts. I'm at the helm
Mhm.
or whatever. But then I was able to just kind of take a step back from that and let let you kind of drive it while I let myself just be like, there, here I am with a metaphor. I'm sitting in the back and I'm just like, man, like,
I'm just so influential. I'm like my magic is sprinkling onto you now.
well,
My
that's
metaphorical magic.
yeah, that's it. That's it. It's the honestly the
Metaphorical
influence of metaphors, man. It really is there.
I know.
Um, but no, I just think like I did so much reflecting after last week because between that conversation and the college conversation, I feel like it has been a year, and this is all stuff that's
Yeah.
happened very recently.
Right.
I mean, just my kind of notes from the self love clip we just played. It's like you know, uh, I don't know if this is as much as good for like the mental health conversation, but I mean, you know, I think it is good to say like we should never forget where we come from. Meaning, if we get to a
Right.
really great place, like it is easy to look back and it is emotional. And then more on the mental health front, we all do have battles to face.
Yes.
Everybody has something, and some people get it tougher than others, and it comes at different times for different people. So on the one hand, I just want to encourage anybody going through a tough battle right now. Um, I never would compare my situation to anybody else's, but I just
Right.
feel like, if and when you get to that point of just utter self love, it's emotional to look back and say, wow, look at all that I had to do to get here. And it's understandable to kind of feel like that bittersweet, just that moment in your mind where you're just like, wow, like, look at everything I had to do. And it's all about the journey,
Right.
and it's
How about the journey?
the blood, sweat, and tears. So, yeah.
Right. No, it's really about the journey. It's not like point A to point B. Like it is that journey in between that you get to point B. And yeah, I- you said it beautifully. I don't have to add anything to that.
Well, like the other little thing too that I thought about is just like, I mean, I touched on towards the end kind of like how just by the nature of who we are as human beings, and I don't mean this in like a negative, like mean person way, but we tend to be very selfish creatures. Meaning,
Right.
until we can experience something for ourselves, we're not going to understand what it's like to go through
Correct.
anything on the mental health spectrum. So, one thing I feel like I've learned this year to kind of add some new content into the mix is like I feel like I've learned that we really all do see the world differently. And so
Yeah.
I think it's allowed me to have a lot less negative feelings towards certain people who I might disagree with. I think I've been able to kind of put my feelings about certain things to the side and just understand that like that person who upset me or hurt my feelings, I'm still going to be upset by that, but they see the world differently. And unfortunately, we also are people who don't, or all of us, humanity, it's very hard for us to change, like how we feel about things. And so that's just how life goes. And so I
Hmm.
think that it's been good for me because I've let go of a lot of weight I was carrying as far as like
Hmm.
letting other people have that enormous effect on me. Because if somebody's bothering you, like why give them the power to
Yeah.
to really let, their
Right.
words when it's not even about you, it's just how they see the world.
No, I agree. And I think I touched on this on a different episode, but like we're talking about like New Year's resolutions and like
Yeah.
all that. And I really think mine is just like living each day like there literally is no tomorrow. It's like it's one of the corniest things, but I in my life currently right now and from the past, I'm seeing left and right that some people do not have a tomorrow, no matter how old they are. And it is very scary and it's a very real thing in this world where like one thing, one moment, 1 second, you might not be there the next. So I really want to for the new year really start realizing that and gearing my mind toward like, this is not the best day, but it can be a lot worse. And I want to see tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? So I really want to shape how I look at different days like that because there's so many things that I have and so many things that I am continuing to see as I live that I would hate to like not be able to see anymore. So I think that's something I'm really trying to work on.
One thing that you are very good at is segues, and you've segued me into my little thing that I wanted to add, which is gratitude. I mean, it's basically bouncing off of what you said. Like you're right, tomorrow's never promised. I've had examples of that this year. You know that. I've talked about it. I I've never been more grateful in my life to just have every moment that I do. I think you and I could agree on that just because we've seen things, experienced things ourselves, and seen things from the other side that uh, the world has seen. I mean, especially with the pandemic that we're still living in. I mean, tomorrow is never promised. With that being said, we're so lucky to have this life that we do that no matter what the struggles are, especially mental health wise, I believe that it's so important that we do talk and we do get the help that we need. And if we know somebody who needs help, that we get them help because it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing that can't be fixed. And it is hard because we're not experts. We don't know the things to say to somebody who might be, depressed or suicidal, just keeping it real here. I mean, but I feel very strongly about this that I want to just go out on a limb and say that if you are feeling any of those things, you please get help because everybody deserves to be here. Even again, we've talked a lot on this show about, not always agreeing with people and human beings and how humans behave, but no matter what, we put all that aside when it comes to mental health. And if you're struggling, get the help that you need. And honestly, another thing that I'm going to be very honest about is that I think I have a lot of work to do in terms of learning more. I mentioned last week I'm taking a class next semester at a community college about psychology because I'm starting to build a foundation for wanting to become an expert in mental health. I think this season I've been away for a little while. It's been kind of about getting my sea legs and getting back into the podcasting. But next season, and I mentioned we're going to tease that, I'm really going to put the work in to learn what I need to know, both for myself and for others, because I don't want to be, speaking not out of turn. I don't know what the right phrase is, but I want to say things just from my heart, so I don't try to be an expert on something I'm not on. But just know if you're struggling, the bottom line is every day is a gift. So, and as the sign says, be kind to yourself. I pointed in the wrong direction. If you're watching this, I still need to get better at the pointing thing. Be kind to yourself, not just to others, but yourself, because no matter what, you deserve to be here.
Your mental health really comes first above anything else. Health is so freaking important. And I feel like I said this in another video, I'm not another episode, I don't know which one it was, but it was like people tend to push mental health to the last minute, the last thing on their list. It's always everything comes before, I'll get to it later. And by then it might be too late.
Mm-hmm.
So please make mental health a priority. It is the first thing you should be focusing on, first thing you should, get help with. Like that is something you need to prioritize. So anything about this podcast, like mental health.
Yeah. I actually think that's an interesting full circle way that we're kind of ending this here because end of episode 1, we talked about loving yourself. And then last week really got deeper into it. But like the message at the end of episode 1 was put yourself first. And now I think on a deeper level, and I think the progress that you and I have made from doing this show, like we're learning together and we're experiencing things together to be able to really speak from that real place and saying, having the, for me, it feels like I'm glad that I was able to say in a way that I think I conveyed well, like that I want you to get help if you're struggling, if you're watching this and you're struggling, because there's nothing, I shouldn't be afraid to say that. I know that it's like a touchy subject, but I'm so glad that we have a platform where we're like touchy, we're talking about it because that's important. We need to.
No, there's so many topics we talked about that are like taboo or like things that really aren't touched upon specifically. And I think, we did a good way of like breaking that ice and breaking the stigma around mental health in general. And, I think we're making strides today that are better than how they were 10 years ago or so. But I really think as generations move forward and as people like us were producing this stuff and putting it out there, I think we can really break that stigma even more. And those can feel safe in knowing that, like, yes, mental health issues, you might struggle with them, you might have them no matter what extent you have, but you're not alone. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's not something that's, should be negative, something's wrong with you. It just means that, you're human and take action steps and you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, it is going to be fine. And you know what else? Another segue here. We're so excited to bring you more of these conversations because we're going to be back for another season. We're working together again. I'm so excited, Lorraine, because we've already done such a great job and now we're going to keep doing an even better job and we're going to bring everything to the next level with every episode. So I cannot wait for the next season.
Yeah, that's the tea, guys. Lorraine and Bennett are not going anywhere. I'll be happily on the other side of the screen with Bennett to have season 3. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, we won't give you a date because we don't have one, but we'll let you know when we do.
We'll keep you updated. That's why you should follow Bennett's socials because he will be releasing those dates when we know.
Yes.
So follow him.
At Bennett.shear.
We have a TikTok too.
Yeah.
He's posting clips from all of the episodes sporadically. So if you come across it on TikTok, be like, I was here first, y'all. Just lurk on there. You'll see a date soon.
Yeah, I have so much improvement to make in the marketing department, so I'm actually checking right now to see what the TikTok account is.
We've
Oh yeah,
been doing okay.
yeah, it's
I think
just
if we post a mass amount,
yeah,
it will. Yeah.
yeah, at Bennett Shear. And I'll put that in the show notes. Make sure the spelling's right because people misspell my name, but it happens. Bottom line is, I am one of the things I'm grateful for is this show and working with you, and I think that we have so much to be proud of for what we've
Yes.
just accomplished over these past couple
Yes.
weeks.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for this, and it's been a great platform, and I'm really blessed to be a part of it, and gonna be part of it again. So thank you so much, Bennett. Because he does all the work, he produces this whole thing. So really credits to him. I'm just his little sidekick on the
Uh,
side here, okay, guys? Like it's really him. It's really him. But I really am excited for season 3, and I think it's gonna be great.
it has been so much fun sharing this experience with you, Lorraine. I mean, so much more than a sidekick. It's just been the best, and I'm so excited to be back for season 3. And with that, thank you guys so much for listening to season 2 of Mental Health on the Mic. Make sure you go back, catch up with us, look at all the other episodes, or listen, I should say. But have an amazing day. Have a happy new year. I hope it brings you everything you could ever want. Any final words?
Mental health is the #1 priority.
Number one.
So love
Yes.
yourself.
Amen. With that, thank you
Amen.
guys so much for listening to season 2 of Mental Health on the Mic.